Welcome, everybody. We have another couple minutes before we begin. This is Joel Harris, and I'm one of your hosts today for the virtual meetup here for the Americas on Plant 3D. We have some more people joining us, and we're just about the top of the hour. I'm going to give it one more minute, and then we'll begin today's meetup. My name is Joel Harris. I'm one of your hosts here with Nabil Nagar, and we'll be starting shortly. All right, it's about a minute after. We've got a good collection of folks that have joined us, so I wanted to say welcome to everybody. My name is Joel Harris. I'm one of your hosts today, and we're going to go ahead and begin today's session. We'll let you know that today is May 12th, 2020, and today's Plant 3D Community Virtual Meetup is going to be about Plant 3D and Revit. We're going to be talking a little bit about how the two work together and just where the strengths and weaknesses are on the two. So if you don't mind, I think we have everybody muted right now. I think you have the ability to unmute yourself if you need to ask a question. But if that's not true, I will unmute you if you raise your hand. Otherwise, what we found is most efficient is if you have a question, please put it in the question box, and either Nabil or I will address the question in the call, and so that you'll all be able to benefit from the answer there. And we also are recording this webinar like all of the other webinars that we do with these plant customer virtual meetups. They're available on the customersuccess.autodesk.com site under webinars. And you'll find not only the Plant 3D ones, but other ones that are being done for infrastructure, electrical, different user groups that we do have. So let's go ahead and begin. A little bit about myself. I know some of you personally on this call, so you you recognize that I look the same as when I knew you way back when. My name is Joel Harris, a designated support specialist for Autodesk. I've been here 6 years. And before that, I spent 23 years as an oil, gas, and chemical piping designer here on the West Coast of the United States. Some of the products that I work with are listed there. And my background is as a piping designer, piping design software administrator and software developer. So and we also have here my colleague, Nabil. And Nabil, if you would go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joel. So hi everyone, welcome to that webinar. And yeah, so my name is Nabil Nagar. I think it's the first time I co-deliver a webinar for America. So I think most of you don't know me. I am a technical specialist on the AEC space with a plant and oil and gas background. I work for Autodesk since 2011. And I'm based in Dubai since 2014. I was based in Switzerland before for 10 years, 3 years with Autodesk, and before I was in France, so I'm French. And I have some background in, as I said, in the oil and gas industry, water, petrochemical and nuclear industry as a piping designer, then superintendent. So I was working heavily with BIM models and using the data to manage shutdown and revamping projects. So yeah, I have extensive usage of Plant and other software. And I joined technical specialist team recently. Before I was with Joel, but for EMEA region.
Thank you, Nabil. Yeah, I'm glad you could join us today to help out. So today's agenda, we're basically going to cover some of the general updates and news after we do it, just a quick overview. This month's theme is what is better, Revit or Plant 3D, and it's intentionally a controversial title or topic just because whenever you talk about better, it always begs the question of what are you judging it on. So we'll talk about some of that, pros and cons, and some of the interoperability workflows. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. We're going to really try to follow up with you with any questions that come out, but they will be available in the collateral that's available on that customer success site, so that the questions that were asked from last month are also going to be up there too, so you'll see those as well. So we'll have hopefully a little bit of time for open discussion and Q&A too. So the overview today is, our objective is to review Revit and Plant 3D and discuss where each are at their strongest, understand how collaboration for Plant 3D works in the version, the 2021 release, and how to get started with your first project, and understand what Autodesk Exchange is and how to access apps, because there are quite a few tools out there which enhance both Revit and Plant 3D, available, some free, some pay, and they'll give you the functionality that you're looking for, possibly without having to change the design tool that you're using. So each of these sessions that we do is intended to be a casual engagement. So we try to cover some news, we try to share some information with you, but it's not a canned demonstration, and really it's meant to inspire discussion and to possibly bring up some things which you weren't aware of and that we can share with you. And on that, of course, we do want to share our safe harbor statement that if there are any statements that we make regarding planned or future development efforts, they're intended not to be a promise, and it's basically something that we want you to understand that that purchasing and investment decisions should not be made based on any of the statements made in today's session. So I'm not going to read this for you, but you can quickly scan down that and understand that information is provided is for information only and may change. So Plant 3D news. I'll go ahead and let you talk to this, Nabil, if you would.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. So yeah, one of the news is the server location for collaboration for Plant. So since recently, since beginning of May, I would say, anybody using collaboration platform in Plant or any modules which are listed on the left side here on that slide are available now in European server. So if you look at the URL, you have two new letters added, so EU just before Autodesk. So that means that the document management repository is in is in Europe now. So it's not a big game changer for you guys in the US. However, for consultancy in the US working with a European project, that can bring a lot of value, especially with GDPR compliance restrictions, because sometimes you have clients who need to have their data located in Europe. So that's the news we want to show here for this month. It's that European server location, and you have a link below with an FAQ. If you have time to look at that, there are some question and answer related to that. So yeah, that's the main point here, Joel.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how you set up collaboration for Plant 3D Access. This falls under news because it's been something that we've seen asked quite a bit in our forums, in our support cases with the customers we were working with. So we want to kind of clarify something that has come up with the newest release of Plant 3D and access to BIM 360. So there's two scenarios here that I'm going to cover. First one is a single user subscriber license. So if you are a single user subscriber license, you do need to log into your Plant 3D application, and then it's going to authenticate that you can actually use Plant 3D as a desktop tool. This is outside of anything to do with collaboration for Plant or BIM 360, just making sure that you have the right license rights and authentication is done for you as a user on that desktop application. So that's one level of authentication that has to happen. Then you have to have access to the Plant 3D collaboration feature, which is in Autodesk account, and it's part of the BIM 360 design entitlement. So once you've actually been given that, then you have access to BIM 360 design and the Plant 3D collaboration feature. Yet you still don't have access to a BIM 360 project yet, because this is where a project administrator in BIM 360 would have to invite you or assign you as a user on that project. Once you get access to the project, then you'll see in BIM 360 design the actual Plant 3D project that you can then open. Once you've done this third step and it's been given to you access by the project administrator, then you'll see it in the Plant 3D project manager, where you can actually open up that project in Plant 3D. If you don't see a Plant 3D project available to you, it's most likely that you haven't been invited to it yet. And you might still have the Plant 3D collaboration feature enabled, and you're able to obviously launch the Plant 3D application. So those are the three steps for a single subscriber user license. Now, if it's a multi-user license on your network, where you have a network user license or a network license server, you do have to have access to your corporate network, and your computer user ID has to be able to access that server where you have that license. So once you've got logged in with your domain login, and you can access that server that has the licenses and your software set up on the desktop to find it, then you're actually going to be able to launch Plant 3D. And then again, the next two steps are similar to what we had with the single user license. You do need to have the Plant 3D collaboration feature added to your Autodesk account under BIM 360 design entitlement. And then once that's been done, you will have access to any BIM 360 Plant 3D projects that you're invited to. And if you need more information about this process, we had the April session that we did, where we did cover this last month, and it was full of information about the newest release of Plant 3D and just how you get started with Plant 3D with BIM 360. Okay, so that's just the news, catching everybody up to date with the questions that we had from the last session. So we will go ahead and start with this month's topic, which is what is better, Revit or Plant 3D? Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and let Nabil start.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. And as you mentioned at the beginning, it's a bit a controversial question, because in reality, there is no real better solution than the other. So Revit is Revit and AutoCAD Plant is AutoCAD, and both have powerful features, and we will see also how we can mix it. I mean, how we can work together these two solutions and make it really efficient with some use case and some additional product as well. We can bring a lot of value in this. So if you move to the next slide, Joel, we have here just a quick reminder for most of you already know these things. It's basically the Plant 3D spin, and you can see a bit an overview of all of the capability of AutoCAD Plant 3D today, from the spec and catalog editor to the deliverables, so isometrics and orthos, and the spec-driven workflow, which allows you to use very efficiently basically the components which are stored in the catalog, then in the PNID. We can use in a very powerful way that spec-driven workflow in Plant 3D and generate automatically isometrics and ortho. So this is the main spin of the product. There are also other features, a lot of features, but this is a bit a snapshot of what Plant 3D can do. And if we look at Revit, it's a bit different, Revit itself. So Revit is a building-oriented solution as opposed to Plant. So Revit initially has been created for vertical models like hospitals, buildings, and then the features became more and more, I would say, complex by the demand of the project nowadays. And what we can say today very quickly about Revit, Revit is a database. So a Revit file, sorry, is a database. All the entities within Revit are parametric, either if it's families or views or others. You will use it in Revit very efficiently, and everything is computationable, and you can even use since few releases ago Dynamo. You can play Dynamo with the Dynamo player within Revit, and the recent release of Revit 2021 has a generative design embedded feature. So for those who don't know Revit, here you can see on the top, let's say it's a central file. Usually we talk about central model in Revit, and it's split in three main disciplines, so architecture, structure, and MEP. And before, we used to have different flavors of Revit. So since 2016, we have the Revit One Box, and it aggregates all these three features with all the families, the libraries, and everything. So usually we work with links as opposed to Xrefs in AutoCAD or AutoCAD Plant. And here you will aggregate different links, Revit files. So the extension is .rvt, and you have also families, which are a bit like the blocks in AutoCAD, and the format is the .rfa, and the templates for these families are .rft, and for project templates that you want to reuse, it will be a .rte. And from these models, you can generate also automatically deliverables like drawings, which are sheets in Revit, and also a bunch of different lists, automated list schedules, and so on and so forth. So that's a bit an overview very quickly in a nutshell of the capabilities of both AutoCAD Plant and Revit.
Okay, I'll move on to the next slide here.
And now, Revit for a plant project itself can be used in a plant environment, I would say, and it will help in specific areas. In particular, like if you have, let's say, a pumping station where you have an overall building or building which is on top of this pumping station, you can very efficiently use Revit to design and model all these buildings elements like walls, the structure, the concrete design, And you can also use the MEP features to design some part of the facilities. I mean the services, the cable trays, the HVAC ducts, and plumbing fixtures, and we will see later the capabilities of the piping in Revit itself. So I come back to the fact that Revit is mainly for building. It's a BIM vertical product. However, you can see that here, you can see on the screenshot at the bottom that we mixed Plant 3D and Revit in one single Revit file. So this is also possible. Then, I mean, Navisworks remain the main repository for such project. We will look at that later on. And yeah, you can move on, Joel, if you want.
Okay. So go ahead and start that.
And what you need to know also is both solution, either Revit or AutoCAD Plant 3D, are compatible with our reality capture solution, so ReCap. So you can use a Revit file and you can mix and superimpose a Revit file with a point cloud, for example, as you can see here. And you can also use photogrammetry with basically you take photos and you make you aggregate these photos using ReCap, and then you make a mesh and you start to superimpose that model with a design project that you did, and this is really helpful. So to predict maintenance operations or revamping or logistic, what needs to be I mean dismantled. So you have very quickly accurate measurement. You can compare construction over time. It's helpful for reverse engineering. So all these benefits are based on the reality capture technology, which is heavily used in the plant industry nowadays. You can even have advanced workflows with virtual reality. For example, if you really want to have an immersive experience on your plant project, if you work collaboratively with stakeholders who are not in your region and you want to discuss a project, it can also help when you have zero maintenance areas like in nuclear industry or explosive atmosphere areas. This can bring a lot of value to basically have that immersive experience when you iterate on the project.
Okay.
And if you move on, so yeah, this is just a quick scheme to show you how both are stored within BIM 360 docs. So I mean, now you have the ability to have those solutions, not only Plant 3D and Revit. Here you can see also Autodesk Civil 3D, and you can store it in one single repository, which is BIM 360 docs, and that's the main game changer here. One single space to store all your projects. And you have a link, as Joel said before. Below you have a link to the previous month collaboration subject we talked about in the virtual meetup. And feel free to watch it because it has a lot of information on how it works for Plant 3D in particular, and Revit is a bit more mature. Revit is the first design tool which was compatible with BIM 360, either the old generation or the new generation. So since Revit 2018.3, you use BIM 360 docs, and for Plant 3D, it's basically the actual release 2021.
Yeah, just so anybody who thought that they'd heard about Plant 3D, collaboration for Plant 3D in the past, the 2018 release did come out with the capability of working with BIM 360 Team, which is a little bit different a platform than BIM 360 Docs. And so the 2018, 2019, and 2020 releases of Plant 3D would work with BIM 360 Team in the cloud, but it lacked the ability to set user permissions and several other really important key workflows that are capable in BIM 360 Docs. So
yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the PNID connector for Revit. I'll let you talk to that one too, Nabil. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe. So yeah, so another thing is the PNID connector or the PNID modeler as it appears in the feature as a feature in Revit. So this is also using BIM 360 design since 2021 for PNID, and it was there in Revit in 2018. And the main purpose of that is to being able to reuse PNID work in a Revit project. So what you will do, you will basically load the PNID by accessing the PNID from the cloud, which are stored in the cloud, and then you will basically have to map some specifications and catalogs within the PNID to the Revit services themselves, and then you can reuse and place basically the equipment along with the PNID. We have some screenshots later on that presentation. I will show you how it looks like. However, what you need to know is that there are some mapping work that needs to be done. If you use that like that by directly sharing a PNID in the cloud, you will have to prepare it somehow into Revit so that you can model it properly. So that's the main thing.
So we have some questions that have been coming in, and we can stop to address those now if you want to. I think there's one that you might be able to address here, which is from Chris Capps, where they ask, can you link both models inside BIM 360? They said they tried this a couple years back but could not make it work. The mechanical model in Plant, structural, and Revit, they could not see each other. Could you explain a little bit of how that works in BIM 360?
Yeah, so it depends. It depends on what's the purpose of aggregating the data. If it's to have a coordination between both teams, like the mechanical and the plant team, for example, we might use another module, which is BIM 360 Coordinate, or if we want to stay on the desktop solution, we could use Navisworks for that. So in that way, you will be able to run clash detections in the cloud using BIM 360 Coordinate. And this we have a quick hint on one next slide about that. Yeah.
Okay, and then we did have one other question. Yeah, and Chris, yeah, just to answer your question, this session is being recorded. It will be available on the customer success site. And so one question that came here, I'm sorry, was what is the suggested workflow to get Plant 3D onto other disciplines drawings in Revit? This came from Richard. I think we're going to go through that here in a little bit. Nabil, isn't that right, where we talk about interfacing between Plant 3D and Revit? So we'll address that one coming up, Richard. And then Lucas, just to answer your question, you talked about mining projects in Plant 3D. I'll just give you some quick tips, especially when you're dealing with point clouds, large civil backgrounds. With the point cloud, you're probably going to look at decimation and minimizing the point cloud area as much as possible. With Plant 3D and mining, where there's a lot of equipment, you got to change the level of detail. And from a fabrication level of detail, where you're seeing every nut and bolt on your pieces of equipment, your conveyors and such, bring it down to a level of detail that's appropriate for process design. So those are just two quick answers I can give you here. We'll put a more complex answer, more complete, in the Q&A that will be uploaded to the customer success site. So, all right, now back to the presentation. When to use which tools. So I'll go and let you talk a little bit about this, Nabil, and I'll add my color afterwards.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the one of the main question, and which is usually addressed. And we already had a few questions on the call now about that. So what to use? So Revit or Plant or both? So there is not a genuine way to answer that question. So basically, both product address similar features and also different features, different environment contexts. So what we can basically summarize here is that as soon as you go for complex piping with pressure pipes, with specific liquid within light pipes with a lot of constraints, and also pipe fabrication requirement, like a lot of pipelines with isometrics, for example, you will tend more to use Plant 3D. So this is a fact. And as soon as you reduce that complexity for pipes, in particular, pipe fabrication, you don't really require isometrics. You work, for example, on the building with hospitals, which has, let's say, cold water to feed HVAC unit, and you have tap water systems and so on. And this can be addressed in Revit itself. And then you have like an area where you can mix both. So let's say for a wastewater treatment unit or project, you might be able to use both. So for the structural side of this unit, you can use very efficiently Revit and all its structural capabilities. And for the process piping within that water treatment plant, or it could be a dam or a gas, an a gas turbine project, for example, we can mix efficiently Plant 3D and Revit. So there is not one single way to do that. It's just we have to start somehow from you need to really to look at the requirement you have on your on the specification of the project, and then you can elaborate a way to mix both. So you have the ability to mix both in Navisworks correctly. However, we could see, along with usage of both product and the interaction we have with customers, we have a lot of different type of workflows between the two solutions.
Great, thanks, Nabil. So let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of each and what value gets added, because we've already seen questions where people are using, say, Revit for structural and Plant 3D for piping, and then there's been mention of a recap for point clouds, and we know that people are using Civil 3D. So let's talk a little bit about what Revit and Plant 3D each bring to the game. So I'll let you go ahead and talk to this one.
Yeah, sure. So for Plant 3D, the added value is, of course, when you start a project from scratch from the PNID feature. Here you have a link to a productivity study showing the efficiency you will win by using AutoCAD PNID against a normal AutoCAD or core AutoCAD process, I would say. So basically, you save 42%, either if it's productivity or time saving, using AutoCAD PNID. So this is first, and then you have to know that in PNID you have all these libraries of standards, symbols. You have tools to get your all your diagrams compliant with the data validation tool. You can also use, as we saw before, the PNID modeler to connect your PNID to a Revit project. And I mean, AutoCAD Plant in its 3D modeling part, it's the ability to create very quickly an equipment based on templates. Out of the box, you have a list of equipments that you can put, and you can use the import feature as well. You can import, any type of equipment. It works well with Inventor. However, you can build your own equipment within Plant 3D. And for the structural part of the project, you can, of course, create support for your pipes. You can also create different type of steel frames in AutoCAD Plant, and this works very well with advanced steel. You can then export to advanced skill, fine-tune the design, and even go to detailing and bill of materials into advanced skill, and you can import back into Plant 3D. And the main value is the isometrics generation from AutoCAD Plant project, and you can also report. You can create different type of reports. You can create a valve report, pipeline report. You can save those reports as templates, and you can customize it. So that's a bit the value of AutoCAD Plant. It's not all of them. Not all of them are listed, but that's some of them. And for Revit, we listed again some value for a plant project. Revit values are massive. There are a lot of value, and it's not an exhaustive list. However, for those who don't know Revit, it's an integrated parametric BIM solution. So it enables you for computational design and more recently generative design. So it has an embedded Dynamo player, so you can run any type of Dynamo script within Revit itself since the two last versions. And the current release, 2021, has an embedded generative design tool. So this is something new for Revit, and some of our users are already thinking on using these new capabilities on a plant project. So by the fact that it's a parametric BIM solution, it minimizes a lot all the time-consuming tasks during design, detailing, and even analysis. We have a very good analysis features embedded into Revit, and you can design according to codes for MEP and structure, for example. And we have for structure the ability to work with robot structural analysis as well to get your structure compliant with specific codes. So it has a lot of libraries, and you can also import and install external libraries from suppliers, from repositories like the App Store. We have also some providers of content which are already in Revit families format. And you have the ability to also to customize Revit using an embedded macro player. This is something which can be helpful as well. This is something, for example, we use to export if somebody has some coding knowledge. He can use that player to export to PCF, for example, a fabrication pipe into Revit. And what you need to know as well is BIM 360 is fully interoperable with Revit, and from Revit itself, you can directly publish design and iterate with different teams using BIM 360 design. You can also integrate external format into Revit. You can link your Revit project. You can link within that Revit project CAD files, DWGs, IFCs. You can also add PDFs. You can also add external Revit as links. You can also export or import and connect to external database like SQL Server or Access using the DB link, and the quantities and lists and schedules into Revit are customizable, and you can save it as a project template. And this is a bit powerful in terms of quantities calculation into Revit. And you have also some realistic rendering capabilities. You can monitor as well the level of details of your elements. So all these are some great value for a plant project using Revit.
And I should mention that we have some questions coming in about just how you would get a Revit file into Plant 3D and a Plant 3D file into Revit. And there's a couple different things that we probably need to address here. Is that there is no live link right now between Revit models and Plant 3D. The closest you would get would be the BIM 360 platform with the coordination model itself, being able to view that in a browser. But I think that it's important to mention to people that the export to AutoCAD command is the way you would get pure AutoCAD solids out of Plant 3D that would be able to be linked into Revit. And then Revit has the DWG export capability. Anything else you want to add there, Nabil, as far as the back and forth between the two?
Yeah. So in a traditional way of work, I would say these export to AutoCAD features is used to bring your 3D model, your 3D plant model into Revit. However, nowadays, when you have a BIM manager assigned into a project who is in charge of aggregating all the models from different disciplines, we tend to see more Navisworks as the desktop product to aggregate those data. So you don't need really to include your Revit model into Plant and vice versa. And the BIM manager will work on the Navisworks file, and he will basically assign the coordination tasks like the clash management, for example, and he will address this clash to the specific teams. However, now the question is somebody who is modeling, for example, walls and stairs into a Revit project. He wants to see the pipes. He wants to see where the pipes are. He wants to look at the pipe runs, and this is a recurrent question. And again, here the export to AutoCAD is the way to go. Or BIM 360 coordinate could address that as well, and of course Navisworks again. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Nabil. And a question just about, there are some tools out there that people have been leveraging. For example, since 2016, we've had the NWD underlay that you can put in AutoCAD as well as inside of Revit. So you have that ability to bring in models that are out there in an NWD format, and Navisworks, of course, reads Revit and AutoCAD files. And with the right object enablers, you get all your properties in it. So, you can bring in NWDs into either. It doesn't clip properly for some views and such. So, but it does work for the design aspect of it. There's also a Revit to advanced steel connector that's out now with it, that was just released with the 2021 release. So if you do want to have a twin, if you would, in advanced steel of your Revit structural model, which you're working with Robot with, say, you can do that, and the advanced steel model would be what you'd be uploading or XREFing into your Plant 3D model to generate orthos and such. So there's some workflows out there that require a few little connectors that you'd have to put together. But there's I've never seen anybody actually do it. I would assume that with the API, you could do it in Plant 3D as far as scripting the export to AutoCAD. But to answer your question, Chris Caps, it should be possible. I can't guarantee that it is because I don't have the experience with the API with using it with opening up models and doing export to AutoCAD. But you could actually script it on multiple models with it. Just if you knew the model names, you could open them up and use that command to generate that. So I'll let you go ahead and continue on to Bill while I go ahead and answer some of these questions in the Q&A.
Yeah. All right. So this is a bit the summary of Plant 3D and Revit working together. You can see at the center you have Revit for, as we said at the beginning, of the overall structure, the building, the MEP cable trays, HVAC systems, plumbing systems as well. So, and you can use AutoCAD Plant 3D for the PNIDs and the piping design, piping layout. And you can also aggregate other solutions here, like Recap, as we could see. I also have Civil 3D for master planning and landscape design. So more and more we see a lot of master plan where you have a vertical BIM plant project so that you can see the context. And it's a bit the same with InfraWorks. So you can use InfraWorks as a conceptual modeling solution, visualization as well. However, we used to see more and more InfraWorks used to place the context of this vertical BIM model. And you can also use Inventor, as we could see, Advanced Steel, robot structural analysis for analyzing the structure themselves. And Navisworks remain the main desktop product for coordination, scheduling, clash detection. You can also connect to external databases. We will see that. And 3ds Max can be used again in a visualization and rendering capability here. And BIM 360 Docs becomes the main document management for all these file format, I would say, and BIM 360 Design for collaboration and coordination, model coordination, which is part of BIM 360 platform, can be used very efficiently to coordinate all these disciplines together. So you can move on. What we just mentioned before is a bit in text here. So a multidisciplinary project can be done in multiple ways. So there is not one single way to do. It depends on your requirement, it depends on the time frame, it depends on the level of detail you want to achieve and the level of detail which is in the specification of the project. So it depends, but here we have some examples, like, for example, the conceptual modeling and visualization. So we can very efficiently use Revit and InfraWorks for piping and instrumentation diagrams, of course, Plant 3D. And I think this is a very clear possibility here, Plant. For equipment detailing, we are talking about detailing, we can use Inventor again here. It's this is a very capable tool for detailing, and it has a lot of automatic features for detailing and creating some drawings of your equipment. But then the equipment themselves within the plant project remains Plant 3D as the solution. For the structure, we can very efficiently use Revit in coordination with Advanced Steel for the pipeways platform support, some specific structure. So you can use those products. But as I said, it's just to trigger the capabilities here. As I said, there are some very interesting workflows which are built with those products. For GA and Ortho, Plant 3D can be used, either Revit as well. You can do general arrangement into Revit as well. For the overall concrete structure and slabs, Revit is the product to do that. And the analysis of these structure and concrete can be very efficiently done in robot structural analysis. And we come back to the coordination for clash detection and so on. Navisworks or BIM 360 coordinate, and you can even simulate the construction using the timeliner within Navisworks, and you can also render the full units into 3ds Max and InfraWorks. And if you look below, we have some areas where it generates a lot of questions, a lot of also enhancement requests on the plant project. Which solution we should use for piping services, plumbing pipes, HVAC cable trays, so cable trays in Revit or in a third-party product from the App Store. So we have much more flexibility in those areas, and it generates a lot of questions. And we put links for the ID station, either Plant 3D or Revit. And you can submit if you have a very interesting idea to these forums for that. And for example, the cable tray capability into Plant 3D has been requested many times. So that might be something which come up in the future. At the moment, it's not possible. the way to go is to use either Revit to model your cable trays in a plant project, or to use a third-party app available from the Autodesk App Store. The Revit Advanced Steel connector is, you have also a link here that is available. You can have a look at that. It's interesting. It's an interesting workflow, and that's a bit what we wanted to say here. The Revit and Plant 3D together is definitively adding value. However, it really depends on the way you will perform your workflow and the requirement of your project.
Okay, sorry, I jumped to the next slide before you were done.
Yeah, perfect. So here we just added some recent enhanced feature in Revit for the MEP side of Revit. So in the MEP fabrication extension, you can directly, for example, if you have some ducts work in your project, you can export these ducts to a fabrication solution. So you can basically, directly from your Revit model, you can fabricate your ducts if you have the capability to do that. Or if you work with contractors, you can deliver the files in its specific format. So that's a really good feature. And this is just to highlight the possibilities of Revit in a plant environment, as well as, you know, the pipes you can see on the right side. It's not only pipe modeling. You will put a lot of information like the pressure loss, the velocity. You will put a lot of data in your pipe. Your pipe assets becomes pipe systems into Revit. So as we said at the beginning, it's a vertical modeling solution where you will basically work a lot with hospitals, buildings, train stations, for example, and those MEP features are really designed for this kind of project. However, we tend to see plants project directly within Revit. And then here again, it depends really on the requirement. It depends on the deliverables you need to address, you need to produce at the end. So that's a bit the discussion here. And on the next slide, we have the a bit an illustration of the systems analysis into Revit for the MEP side. So it's pretty advanced. So as soon as you correctly filled all the information within your plant, your Revit project, you can perform analysis, very interesting analysis. So you can basically check the energy level of your whole building, for example, for the HVAC system in particular. So this has been enhanced. It was there since the previous releases as well, but it has been enhanced in this current release and in the previous one. So for those who don't know Revit, you can create custom analysis workflows depending on the requirement again. So this is really an interesting feature of Revit. And if you move to the next slide, I think we will touch the desktop connector here. Yeah, so which is based on docs, and it replaces, as Joel mentioned earlier, it replaces previously the BIM 360 team repository, and with BIM 360 docs, you have one single source of truth along your project. Whatever file you will put into docs, including your AutoCAD Plant 3D, 3D layout, and the PNID. So the PNID modeler will connect efficiently with a bit of mapping mapping work that needs to be done into your Revit project. And you will see what's available. There is a color code, and it's an interesting feature if you want to use both PNID and Revit for the piping. We used to have before the ability, as again, to generate isometric from the cloud with Revit 2018. This is still not possible again. It was a beta, and it might come back, and that would basically close the loop for the deliverable. So that's a bit what you need to know. Yeah, Joel, you want to add something?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that, yeah, you're right on with that. We have about 5 minutes left or so in this hour, and I wanted to make sure that you had enough
Oh,
time to we can talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's coming up. I wanted to answer some of the questions, but I also wanted to let us address the Navisworks manage the aggregating data and the whole concept of interoperability, because we've had some questions about, getting the products to work more smoothly together, and what are we doing as a company to work in that direction. And I think that this is a good slide to sort of address that. One of the things that's great about Navisworks is that it accepts a lot of different file formats. And BIM 360 is a similar platform in the sense that Navisworks is really a great collaboration platform, brings in lots of different file formats, lets you look at properties, lets you figure out how things are interacting. And BIM 360 has a lot of those really same capabilities, as well as all the different file formats that you can load up there. And with BIM 360's ability through Forge to extend the capabilities into connecting with other applications or other workflows, you might see that common data environment that we're endeavoring to put together in the cloud is actually more powerful than improving the import-export capabilities between the different products. Not saying that we're not doing that, but what we are looking at is how you get everything together with all of its data, all the different file formats, even non-Autodesk formats, and be able to work with those spatially for clash detection and layout, and reporting done through the textual properties that are part of the metadata that go along with these components. So I'll let this slide kind of speak to itself, but we'll mention that when you do bring in Revit models and Plant 3D models into Navisworks, they maintain their GUIDs that allow the QTO capabilities of Navisworks to be there, so that you can search on properties where you have the properties from Revit and the properties from Plant 3D, which may have come from different companies, may have different names or schemas, if you would, and you can still bring them together into one environment. Now, if you use tools like Assemble, which allows you with the cloud to do some more advanced work packaging and quantification there, you can actually do stuff like conditioning the data so that your pipe OD in Plant 3D can be merged with the name of that same property in Revit, and see them called out under one single property listing for both models. So that conditioning of the data is really what people are looking for, rather than 100% compatibility between all possible products. So that's something to think about too. Clash detection between models and enhanced coordination, where you can actually address issues. Say, hey, could you please move this steel, move this pipe, so that I can route my pipe through there. That sort of stuff with Clash is the capabilities that we're seeing building up in BIM 360, and that already exist in Navisworks. So the 5D visual scheduling of construction and logistics of doing construction using Timeliner, which will link with your Primavera or MS Project data, and being able to import that in and make that part of your live model. This is all stuff that we're trying to keep those capabilities together. So is there anything I missed, Nabil, that you think is important on this slide?
yeah, no, I think you did explain very well all these very important coordination features within Navisworks, yeah, as a value
Great.
for product.
So that takes us to, now you're ready, set up, what next? And this is where we want to talk a little about the questions and answers. So I'm going to ask some of these unanswered questions here, Nabil, and I'm going to let you take them, or I'll take them if I can. So one question here says, we use Navisworks when developing the structural model. We need the ability to measure closely the bolt locations in Plant while linking Plant into Revit. An object enabler for Plant while in Revit really needs to be developed or make sure these work well together. Do you want to address any other alternative workflows in the meantime until a Plant object enabler for Revit is available?
I think the main challenge that a Revit project and a Plant project together in Navisworks is the shared coordinate. I'm not sure if this is the subject of the questions. However, we really need to make sure that we have reference point and we check at an earlier stage the way we will aggregate the data into Navisworks to have a clear superimposed coordination into Navisworks. So the Navisworks aggregation of the data, either if it's Plant or Revit or other solution, needs to be correctly settled at the beginning of the project so that you don't face any scale or units or shared coordinate issue within Navisworks in the coordination area.
Yeah, it's true. And actually, we're at the top of the hour now, and we have several other questions that I'm going to have to answer offline, and I'll put them into our Q&A files that we upload with these videos to that customer success site. So at this point, just want to thank everybody for their time today, and that we're all able to attend, and it's a lot to go over. And so it was an ambitious topic to cover this month, but hopefully you got some idea of some of the workflows that are out there and some of the capability differences between Plant 3D and Revit. Nabil, is there anything you want to say before we close?
No, that's perfect. If we can get also some, as you said, some workflows, typical workflows and challenges that you face, feel free to share it with us. So we are really interested, and we might help you in fine-tuning that workflow to make a smooth working environment in your project. And you have also some resources if you want to get started with both Revit and Plant 3D. If you don't know, we put it at the end of this slide. So please download these slides in the customer success page and access those links and start to get the latest resources that we put for you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great week.
Thank you very much. Bye.